Hello, welcome to another live Google Hangout on the Living Income Guaranteed. And today we will be discussing from archaic to holistic psychiatry. And the description to our Hangout today is that changes are coming and it is inevitable that we will be having to leave all the horrors behind us. This is what our guest today has said about archaic psychiatry and mental illnesses treatments, which have been for the most part conducted behind closed doors in mental hospitals and clinics, following a series of experiments and practices that have become traumatic, inhumane, and abusive for all patients around the world that have gone through them, with little to no genuine result. So what we're facing today in our reality is a great need of change, changing the paradigm in psychiatry, in our economics, in a society, but also in our psychological and mental health industries and institutions, so that we can rather prevent its causes and so change the way that it is currently treated. So today, to discuss about the deficiencies, the pros and cons of this health industry, we have Tormod Hvidsten Gjedrem with us, a former...
Hello everybody, hello.
Welcome to the Hangout. He's a former patient within the current psychiatric treatment, and he's an activist in Norway to provide new approaches on how psychiatry can be treated. And he's here today to share with us about his first-hand experience about the current treatments and suggestions for the way forward toward this holistic approach in psychiatry. So to remind all our viewers, we will be having questions and comments open for you. You can place them on the Google event, of course, and if you watch the replay on YouTube, you can still leave comments for Tormod, and we can let him know so that you get your reply. So first of all, Tormod, share with us a little bit about your experience within the psychiatric treatment. How long have you been through it? What you were diagnosed with and what the outcome of it has been.
Well, yeah, I was first introduced to psychiatry in 2002. At that point in my life, I had been partying away my late teenagers and my early 20s, and I was then going head-on into psychiatry with the diagnosis of schizophrenia and delirium at that point, alcohol poisoning. At that point I stayed in the hospital for 3 months, and in total throughout the last 10 years since that, I have been committed to hospitals over 80 times, and that is also in various places in Norway, both south and north in Norway, and I have been taking chemotherapy for almost all that time, going on and off, because I would think to myself that these pills are not working, and I would try to quit them, and going into turmoils and psychosis because I quit them too fast, and having all sorts of negative experiences with police and health personnel and parents and family, etc., etc. And it was not until in 2011, in the middle of Norway, of Namsos, I learned that things have to change. I learned I have to stop my drinking, stop my hashish, my weed, my addictives had to change. I had to evolve and start or get to this point of stopping myself for all this insanity that I've been doing, like self-medication and addictives that I've been escaping with. So after that, I'm able to look back at my 10 years in psychiatry, of addicted to psychiatry, addicted to that care or comfort or a warm bed or some food or talk to nurses and running around in South Norway with addictives and running from responsibilities and reality as a schizophrenic in Norway.
So within your experience on that, you have become aware of the problems, deficiencies, and maybe some good stuff that is being applied, particularly in Norway. We will be focusing on that. So can you share with us more about this?
Yeah, when I first was introduced to psychiatry, there was various cognitive training programs like knitting, painting on glasses. There was even some working tools for making wood work. I remember. Later, it's been reduced very much, and the Austria have been cut in, and we have been only having music therapy, which is a very good therapy form, but it's not enough. It's not extensive enough, and it's not getting out there to the people who actually fucking need it. And we have all these sorts of housing. We have very various housing differences in Norway. They have something called bofellesskap, like a community house where you have several apartments, and you have an office with somebody who is in charge of the drugs, medications. They live in these apartments. They have live in these apartments and have their lives there without going to work, without going to school. Very many, and there is this chemical therapy boiling over. People are popping pills, and as a side abuse of that, they are drinking, eating pizza, doing hashes, like I've done for 10 years, and literally abusing themselves and abusing the possibilities that it is with what we receive of welfare in this country, and how we could actually, how we need to find that key, because every one of us, like I found with myself, working out, painting, playing guitar, writing, reading, what I like to do, my keys in life, that is something that I see is very important for each and every one of us in psychiatry. Have to find and figure out what is it that you like to do. What is there something you like to work on bikes, you like to do stuff. There's something you like to do because if else you wouldn't fucking be here. Because and that is something of the new approach, sort of, that we need to figure out how to lurk into that, all those guys and girls sitting in apartments and doing nothing really, and yeah.
So if I understand correctly, it means that you do get some support in terms of these houses that you're mentioning, and people do get the opportunity to rehabilitate themselves, but at the same time you get the medical treatment. Is that correct? And people become addicted to the drugs themselves, or how does that function?
Yeah, there is a massive medical treatment, and people go take lots of chemical therapy, and there's also the side abuse of weed or beer or alcohol, hashish or speed or heroin and so on and so forth. But there is very little. There are consultants. You can go to a doctor and talk to a doctor. There are programs now starting up more and more, like something called trainee buddy, like someone who goes with you to the gym. Someone brings you out from your good chair and your couch or whatever and takes you to the gym. We have several programs and courses for people to be introduced to find a hobby activity, a daily walk. There's all sorts, and also there is daycare, community homes that offer, like you can come and have pay a little symbolic price and get good food. You can come to the house and paint something during the day. You can come and just enjoy a cup of coffee, read a magazine, read a newspaper, and just have some sort of social input in your day. And those are very popular, but they are often community driven, so they are often a victim to Austria and cuts when the council or government find out that we don't want to spend too much money on painting or knitting, and also we have the foundation of Fountain House Foundation, which is a very important foundation throughout the world. How the Fountain House Foundation is a sort of daycare, user-friendly foundation that where you can come and it has a focus on getting the patient back to studies or back to work, into work in some relation or one way or another. That is a very cool focus. That is a very cool program. There's also various other types of treatment, like you have like something we call ACT, and ambulerende team is like you can call out to the local service unit and say I'm suffering, I'm having voices, I'm having distress, I'm suicidal. You call out, they can come to you, they can come home to you no matter what time it is really, and they visit you and spend time and chill, and maybe they help you do maybe something wrong in your apartment, or instead of letting it go into a huge drama, you know. And there's that. There's also, like, we have low-risk hospitals that are more user-friendly, hospitals that focus more on getting you back into society, getting you back into family relations. There's something called Odin. Odin means open dialogue, and then there's something more to that word. That's like from the Archaic Club in Finland, and it's an open dialogue approach, which means to include parents, siblings, aunties, uncles, grandparents, somebody else that means something to you within the therapeutic sessions, within the talks, within the service, within the planning of service for the individual plan. We have this. Everybody in Norway is supposed to have an individual agreement. What is my agreement with being in psychiatry? Well, how do I relate to being in psychiatry? What is it that I need within from psychiatry? What offers are there? What can I get from this? And also one of the newest things within psychiatry in Norway is user-controlled beds. You can call into the local hospital and say, I haven't slept for many days, or I have troubles, I have traumas or tantrums, or you can reserve a bed on your own terms, and you control, and it's user control because you control your own medication, and you control much of your days, but you are still within a hospital care. So there are lots of different services apart from this big centrally run hospitals with, you know, the traditional look of girls with arms full of the volcanoes and people running around with screaming and yelling and being insane. Yeah.
Like the usual condition of a mental hospital that we all have in mind, specifically here in Mexico. I was mentioning to you that to us the idea of mental hospital is more like a horror movie type of situation wherein people were abused, tortured. My father was saying that in his days it was even a threat to children, like, if you keep behaving that way, we will send you to La Castañeda, which is quite a well-known mental hospital, and people were chained. There's cases of sexual abuse, of course, and all of these treatments like lobotomy and so forth, electroshock, that have been like the traumatic aspect of everything that is involved in psychiatry, that at the moment is heavily relying on drugs at the same time. You mentioned before about the pension that you get. Is this because of your mental condition or status as a former patient, or how does that work?
Well, my pension is something called uføretrygd, and it's a pension because I'm disabled, because I am not capable of working per now or at this hour or right today. And so I receive a pension that is sufficient for me to live in a home. I live now in an apartment that you see around me here. It's an apartment that is provided to me by the community. It is a low rent, and so I don't own it myself. I rent it. But I receive enough pension to live a dignified life, enough food on my table every day. I can pay for services. I have a car. I can drive and do visit friends far away, and etc. I have a life to a very far degree called for a dignified life, and
So would you say it works like a living income already for you?
Yes, you can very much say that, and yes, because I have
cool.
to work to make the ends meet. Really, I am spoken for. I am covered that way. Yeah, you can say that.
That's awesome, because that's not really existent here at all. none of that, none of what you've mentioned thus far, I can consider as being part of any psychiatric treatment. People are living probably worse than prison people. And most of the times, all of these, as you were saying, these mental health facilities also get budget cuts. Like one here in the city that I live in has been completely destroyed. It has been sold for private property now. And I mean, what happened to all of the people that were in there? They don't have families, or their families reject them. So it's a cool contrast to see. I mean, Norway has a high standard living, of course, so everything that you mentioned, to me, it's like luxury, including the pension plan that you have. Whereas here and in many places around the world, it's like hell, really. Like, there's also a very cool documentary that I'd like to recommend, the Bellevue Hospital documentary, which is located in New York, if I'm correct. Have you watched that one?
I have not seen that, no.
Well, yeah, there they also explain all of these, the state and condition of these hospitals, the lack of resources. So what you're mentioning leads almost to this holistic approach, definitely, and it's great that it's been going on in Norway. So let's look on what would you say has caused people to become ill? What kind of lifestyle, or what has happened in our society that more and more people are suffering from mental illnesses at the same time?
It's a good question, but it's a very open, bright, shiny answer question, because like Bernard Pullman said, and all people have said before that, is that as long as no one is free, as long as not all are free, none are free until all are free. So as long as people are suffering, going through abuse, famine, starvation, corruption, people are going through this misery and this violation of life, really, then that will be noticed in some way or another by somebody. And as long as this goes on, people will turn sick, either directly from that abuse and violation, famine and starvation and name it, or like a reflection of that within people that really are sufficient and manage well in their humble little corner, but they can still become sick and depressed and stressed from these relations and these thoughts and voices that come up when we think about how people are suffering in third world countries, etc. So it's really reflecting in a humanistic perspective on all the inequality of this world, and like people go paranoid or thinking that somebody's after them, and so there's really lots to that question, but
someone is actually saying, Bogdan Dancy, he's saying distribution of wealth is the sickness, which relates to what you just said, the inequality that is prevalent around the world. And we were discussing before the hangout how even radical movements like black metal and all of the crimes that revolve around it have been born in a society such as Norway, wherein even if something or the environment seems to be perfectly fine, there was people that wanted to point out not everything is fine. Let's look at the suffering that is maybe not around us but in this world, and wanting to allow people to still see that there are problems that go on in our minds, even if everyone is having, for example, a sufficient money to live and so forth. And I would say that worldwide, yes, the lack and the pressure of not having money also contributes to these mental illnesses. And it starts with stress, it starts with fear, constant paranoia of not having enough to eat, that leads you to definitely become mentally ill. And you know, the choice that we have at the moment is, oh well, you just take pills and it should be fine, which is obviously not the solution, and why we are doing this hangout. So thanks, Bogdan, for your input. So what about the stigma around people asking for this kind of support? Because I know for a fact that someone has a hard time really accepting that there's something that is not going on well in their minds and in their everyday experiences. So can you tell us more about this?
Well, yeah. can you please repeat the question? Sorry, I didn't get it.
Yes, like the fear that people have of doctors or sharing their issues or becoming suddenly labeled as mentally unstable.
Yes.
How do people deal with that?
Well, there is still a great fear from going to doctors, to admitting that you have a mental illness, because of the big hype and the big scare from drugs and medication. So people fear to go to the doctor because they fear to go out with a box with some pills on it, and then they have this view of ending up like drug addicts in Oslo within half a year or something like that. And this perspective of ending up like a pill popper is too freaky to people, and people are avoiding to go to the doctor, and it's causing more taboo to the people that are in psychiatry, that have mental illness, that come forward with it, that open about it and say, I have a problem, I'm bipolar, or I'm schizophrenic, or this cause taboo and traumas with them. So it's very and that's also interesting, how the new approach, where we say that we must find the key to each individual's little box of wonder that they like, and by that manner I mean to use me as a pair worker, as my experience, to go into people's homes and visit people and say, what is it that you like to do, man, and try to figure that out, and because it costs, and that is something that is widely known, that it costs too much money to have people in hospitals for months and years and years and years and years, locked up in cages, and it costs lots of money. And that's what the politicians are noticing within the recovery package. That it is the recovery package. It is that people are supposed to be helped where they are actually, and to avoid the long hospitalizations, and to keep the criminally insane at a risk at their one place, and the others who are inflicting self-inflictors or others, to help them where they are at, where they are living, and to provide help to them that is often to find their key, to find their thing that they like, the butterfly effect, really. No.
It's really, I would see it as a social responsibility, to provide sufficient and proper support for individuals suffering this kind of illnesses or conditions. Why? Because we are all responsible for creating a life, a system, an environment that is not supportive, not only in the economic aspect, because that can be questionable in Norway, people live mostly are well off, but there's still the lack of proper support at a mind level, and mental support is something that we also want to focus a lot on. Equal Life Foundation, within the change of educational implementing principles and so forth. Before I forget, let's go to some questions and comments. So we have from Julio Risco Bracamonte. In Peru, this type of management and programs for people with psychiatric disorders is poor or non-existent. I agree. I guess it's the same here in Mexico, Latin America. That's why I'm saying wow to everything that exists there. And even then, there's still deficiencies, but there is a great lack of even budget to provide support for these people. Then we have Mats Bjornsti, and he's from Norway. He says the pension plan is dependent on mental diagnosis if you're young in Norway. And keep in mind, the education in Norway is bullshit. Plus, we have a massive alcohol culture, and so our economic resources are wasted on trivial matters that prevents realizations. I say that this is a cool perspective. Thanks, Matt, because you were also mentioning that there's this great cultural problem in terms of alcohol, drug addiction, etc. So, what can you tell us about it?
Yeah, I can say that what we call in Norway for NAV, N-A-V, is like the work and social ability or disability office or big government creature that gives or don't give money to people that can't work or that have disabilities, etc., work related. And there are very many people who have very little money. Norway is one of the, together with Hungary in Europe, don't have a minimum wage, as far as I know. And there are people who have very little money that don't have, are not as sufficient as I am. And it's depending on the type of, if the experience, work experience, of your past. It's very much going like yo-yo with all how you get money. But there are lots of programs, and with a lot of programs, there's a lot of chairs, so that it's easy to fall between. So there's a lot of people that don't suit the chair, there's a lot of people who don't fit in, and so there's very much individual personal crisis that we read about in newspapers, and also with the alcohol culture, which is a deep problem, and alcohol must be banned ASAP. So it's and that's like the ordinary day for, like, my foster brother, who's now is dead, who died in 2010. When I would visit him, he would have the two things that I knew he would have. There's a frozen pizza box and a 6-pack or 12-pack of beer. That's what he had every day, or so, almost. So this goes on pizza and beer and drugs and round and round and round. And this proves to everybody that poverty costs immense amounts of money, even though we're not locked up in the long corridors.
Yes, that's an interesting perspective, because we're all in the same prison at the same time when we don't allow each other to enjoy our lives and to develop ourselves to our utmost potential, when we use money as an excuse, and also the lack of principles, values that, for example, can be implemented in terms of ensuring that a family is supportive toward children, which causes many times the alcohol abuse in many cases, and developing all of these mental situations, which are preventable, and that's our aim also within the consideration of Living Income Proposal, Equal Life Foundation. So thanks, Mats, for your perspective. And we have another comment from Bogdan Dancy, and he's saying, if we would automate process in business, government, hospitals, schools, we could create more available time for other things like enjoying money, enjoying safe governmental structures without corruption, hospitals with no limited amount of resources, and the education without. So yes, money shouldn't be an excuse, of course. What's your take, Tormod?
Yeah, I immediately I look at Britain and UK and I see how they are selling out their national health unit or their health programs to the highest bidder, and I would say that it's a result of corruption, and it's a result of lousy handling and self-interest and I don't know, bureaucracy and things gone wrong, and too many Daily Mail headlines of violations and crime and sickness. So it's that's what happens when you get people, when you get this corruption and truth, or what shall I say, you get these reality bites or bottom line. And the result that we don't want responsibility for this, and we're selling this mental health service to the highest bidder, and we have to fetch it back up again later to the best of all, and create a society based on real life values, and not on biggest cake or the biggest whatever. It's you have to change from that and evolve from that eventually. Yeah.
And people like yourself are directly involved into being sort of like an activist to promote new principles. So let's talk about that. I know that you are the leader of a certain organization. What is it all about, and what's your role there?
I'm a leader of a local establishment of organization, yeah, in the southwest of Norway. It's called WSO, We Shall Overcome. It is an old user rights movement from the United States. They started in the 1960s. It has a very profound, it's focused on reducing the level of force in psychiatry. It has a focus on reducing drug therapy usage to reduce to a minimum. We focus on the patient and the patient role. We try to publish the stories, and when for my share, I get to travel like to Oslo or other places to go to the courses and seminar and learn about mental health and the challenges, and we learn a lot about we learn a lot from drug rehab, because drug addicts in Norway have gotten quite far or gotten quite far in compared to psychiatry, and we learn from them very much what we're doing, because it's also drug related, and therefore from there off it's very easy road, sort of. There's no major obstacles, though I can see it, and you could say that I participate with the VSO, and there are about 4 or 5, maybe 6 organizations in Norway that are established to protect, to work for human rights in the mental health industry. And one of these organizations have now started a drug-free treatment center in the east of Norway. So that is now these days starting. That is to my awareness the first drug-free treatment center in Norway that are based related to psychiatry and not only the drug relations. But that is also something we see, that big picture, that drugs and drug rehab and drug experience and psychiatry, those two are very equal paths, to put it that way, or similar, many similarities to learn from, that we gain experience from, yeah.
Yeah, so that's what's very innovative, and what we also definitely support, to try other means and methods to get rid of using drugs, to counteract maybe a drug addiction at the same time, and rather give this personal approach. And can you share with us more about what you've done with yourself? I know that you were in this treatment before. What's your current situation in relation to that? And also, how have you integrated this new approach, this holistic approach, to your own life?
Yeah, I now take one type of drugs that I think to myself that I want to live without life without drugs, but for now I must bridge myself, because I get possessions in my head, and I have to, and I can sleep. That's my troubles. I can't sleep, and because I get all these voices and noise in my head. So I receive a shot of antipsychotic, a lily drug every 14 days, like a depot shot that I stored in my buttocks. So I'm very aware of that. I use that drug, and I have this one drug. I don't have 5 or 10 drugs like it's cases with somebody with other patients, and I try to talk to my physician doctor about how I can one day be without drugs, and have plans for that, and try to arrange for that. I also work out quite a lot. I go to the gym every second, every third day, and work out, and use that as my addiction, as like a supportive addiction, sort of. And that I find very supportive for me. And what shall I say?
In terms of how you support yourself with this new approach, what do you do in your everyday living besides working out and so forth?
Yeah.
How do you deal with your mind, for example?
Good question. I write quite a lot, and I also paint. I like to read. I like to knit. I started knitting. I prepare food and enjoy myself in my apartment.
And do you support others at the same time? Sorry for interrupting, but do you also go with other people that are going through similar experiences as yourself?
I try to, but I need to have that social input from somebody. I need to have some sort of input, feedback, or whatever you call it, and. I drive to the city of Stavanger, which is a 45-hour drive from here, and I drive my car, and I what shall I say? I maybe see people go to a cafe and maybe I go to a concert and dance, or I just have fun and but and I try to talk to other people about quitting drugs, quitting drinking, going for walks, try to writing, try to find something that I think that I like. And yes, I have very many old friends within the from going back to meeting first time in psychiatry and that type of relations, and I would meet them and there's this connection of psychiatry that's like rooted between us, then you could say, and yeah, it's a struggle in very many ways. You could say that, yes.
And how would you then consider that, for example, providing a living income and all of the rest of proposals that we have could support in not only preventing this type of mental illnesses, but how would you consider that would change the way that treatment is given at the moment?
Well, first of all, we must have more. We must reach out to those people, mostly boys, but also girls, who sit each day in front of YouTube or Facebook. They have pizza and they have six-pack. That's their life. Those people, there are many people in Norway. They sit on their bums and they're paranoid, or they have some sort of relations within themselves, in their minds. They drink, and there's theft, and there's drugs, and there's addiction drama, what I call it, where police is never far away, and our ambulance is never far away, and they are stigmatized and spit at almost, but at the same time they have a choice. They can get out of it. They can, but it's not an easy road. It's not an easy task to do, to get out of drug rehab and to withdraw, as they call it in the United States, and the new cool movement of Mad in America, or MIA. But I would always talk to my doctor before I go off drugs. But there's very much drug abuse in Norway. Drug addicts is a very widespread illness in this country, and all in rural and cities everywhere, and there's great challenges.
It is also interesting because, for example, I've watched in documentaries that in Australia, the welfare that people get, some of them actually go directly to using it to get into drugs or buy the next fix. And that has been also part of why people say, oh no, if you give money to these people, they will only get high and they will do nothing with their lives. But we have to then create an environment that is not, from the get-go, diminishing your potential as an individual that leads you to, for example, want to test out drugs, but rather inform, educate ourselves as to how there are more opportunities when we create a system that is benefiting everyone. Because sometimes one gets into a depression and falls into drugs because you see no way out, because you feel that there's no space for you, that there's no opportunity given. And it's like, why would I want to be working in this world that is going to the trash can? So I do see that we can prevent a lot in creating supportive environments to get people off survival mode, off that stress, all of that chaos that comes when one has no given support to live in dignity. We have some comments from Bogdan Dancy, and there are several, so I'm just going to read the last one. Helping humans around the world, I need your help to work as unity, because if we would invest with all of us, we could make money like the billionaires do at the moment, and real investors like banks and hedge funds, etc. He's talking about using like the financial market tactics to fund the basic income, which is a different topic. I would not suggest it, though we have to create this as just what it is, making the money available through all the means that we have several times discussed, and not really play through that financial rigged game, because we would only perpetuate the problem. We just have to make the money available in a way that we can all benefit from it without having to keep playing in the casino that Forex and Wall Street is. So that can be for another topic. So Tormod, we're getting to the end of our hangout. Any last words that you'd like to share on this topic? Maybe encouraging people to either seek for support or become an activist as yourself in this area.
Yeah, I would like to say that anybody can become drug-free. We are born drug-free, so anybody can eventually, with withdrawal, with rehab, with whatever treatment, can become drug-free and alcohol-free. So there's challenges, but there's also possibilities and opportunities and a better life waiting. Let's grab that opportunity and let's get drug-free. Let's get healthy again. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say, and adding to that, that part of our motivation every single day is to understand that some of us have a better condition or availability to do this kind of work and to propose solutions for people that might be currently locked out in a mental hospital and have no way to speaking out because they're considered mentally deranged and unstable and whatnot. So it is about people like us tending a hand and not only funding these kind of holistic programs and advances in a more personal approach to psychiatry other than the regular pills that just make all the big pharma even richer. We have to stop that. We have to consider that there are better ways to wherein even creating a relationship, a sense of community and unity can support us into developing better personalities and a stable living condition at the same time. Because sometimes even isolation, even if you have everything that you need to live, isolation, not having communication can lead you to have this kind of problem. So in essence, yes, money is one aspect of the change, but it also has to come with this psychological and support from all of us as a community, as humanity. So that's why we also support the idea of, yes, providing a basic income, a living income, but along with various changes in education, in parenting, in these social values that also Tormod was speaking of. So thank you for sharing all of this, Tormod. It's very interesting to see what's going on in Norway, which I would say it is quite advanced to what we are saying, for example, in Latin America or maybe Asian countries. Third world countries doesn't even exist, and a lot of abuse is taking place. So thanks for enlightening us with these type of solutions. We have a last comment from Mats Bjornsti. He's saying, an unconditional living income will expand people's opportunities to develop and utilize our potential. That goes for everyone. Schooling should be a supportive and not suppressing system so that we prevent mental illness. Fully agree, because in school, what would you say? A lot of that suppression, of that control takes place, which prevents us from really, as I was saying, understanding that we do have the potential, but we have to create the structure to support that potential. And money is used as an excuse, which shouldn't be, because we know that then all the problems that ensue from preventing that support are greater than what it would cost to give a living income, for example. What's your take on that?
Well, poverty costs, psychiatry costs, drug regulations cost a lot of money. And just look at the new article from Newsweek, where it says that American taxpayers would save 150 billions if they would give every household a $15,000 yearly income. And that's 150 billions in saving if you have a basic income in the United States. So that's just like numbers. The math is simple. Enough is enough. Living income now.
Yes, I fully agree on that, and let those be the last words of our hangout. Thank you very much again. Thank you, the viewer, as well. We will see you next week with another Living Income Guaranteed hangout, the last one of the year. Thanks, Tormod. Bye.
Bye-bye.